All right, welcome everyone to Bitcoin's third halving. I'm joined here by Bitcoin OG and legend from Japan, Yuzo from bitFlyer. Yuzo, thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me.
So Yuzo, is this your third halving that you've experienced?
Yes and no. Actually, I started the company 6 years ago, so officially it's the second time. Was a Bitcoiner before making bitFlyer, so I mean unofficially third time.
Yeah, so I always enjoy hearing from kind of Bitcoin OGs what their, what brought them to Bitcoin in the first place. So how did you find Bitcoin and what kind of opened your mind to it?
I used to be actually a trader in Goldman Sachs. One of my colleague introduced a Bitcoin in 2010. That was very early day, and I got the first actually I felt it's just a toy money, so I didn't actually believe it. But I believe the big blockchain. I loved actually technology itself. But then 2013, there was a Cyprus shock. Then I look back the Bitcoin again, and the price actually hiked a lot. Then I took deeper look.
I feel like if you learn about Bitcoin and your first reaction isn't skepticism, then you're way too open-minded. The best Bitcoiners are the ones that come in the most skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, there was it's a video game. It's Linden Dollar. It's
Yes,
second
yes. Yeah.
Second Life. So my first impression was same actually digital currency, same as a Linden Dollar. We went up a lot, but I mean, we went zero after actually they issued a lot of actually lands that diluted the value of the money. But yeah, I thought it was actually Linden Dollar, but Bitcoin had very good technology, it's blockchain. So yeah, I think it's very different.
So that's a perfect segue to my next question. Monetary policy. We live in a strange time today. I'm curious to hear your worldview about how you think monetary policy, either from the Federal Reserve or from the Bank of Japan, is affecting Bitcoin and demand for Bitcoin. And is the dollar going to be the next Linden dollar?
Actually, I'm not that aggressive. I used to work for the financial sector, so I think the virtual currency or crypto in English are different from the fiat. So it's the crypto itself is not designed to manage the monetary policy, but the fiat currency is designed to do that. So they can issue, the central banks actually can issue the fiat currency anytime at any amount to control the interest rate and the money flow. But I mean, it's difficult in the Bitcoin because you can't control appreciation, depreciation, and the inflation, deflation. So I think it's I think it's different.
Well, do you see the Bank of Japan and stimulus that's happening in Japan affecting demand for Bitcoin? Like we right now have a Twitter handle that I think is pretty hilarious called your stimulus check in Bitcoin. And they sent everyone, I think, $1,200 here. And a lot of people bought Bitcoin with it. And now that $1,200 is worth $1,700. So it's like, is there something similar happening in Japan?
Yes, actually, some people actually saying there's some demand of the Bitcoin is a lack of trust of the fiat currency, which is Japanese yen. But I don't know. It's very difficult to say. Some people are afraid of actually the hyperinflation of the Japanese yen because BOJ issuing a lot of Japanese government bonds. Actually, it's not really issuing, but buying the Japanese government bond and also buying the equities, Japanese stocks, and straight bonds, and it's increasing a lot of actually amount of the balance sheets. So people say it's it's the beginning of the hyperinflation. So some actually money actually come into the crypto world, but I don't know the cause.
Sure, sure. You know, it's one thing that's always interesting for me when I travel to Japan is when you go through airport security and they're like, they open up a book and they're like, do you have gold items on you or any of these gold items with you? You know, and it's, you know, really probably one of the most intense places to travel to and get questioned about gold. And it's surprising to me how friendly the government has been with Bitcoin when Bitcoin and gold have so much in common. Do you think that policy stance will stay the same? Am I interpreting that policy or that kind of view of Bitcoin from the government correctly, that they see it differently? Or
yeah, for the gold, the reason why actually they are checking the gold is because there's actually, you can do the tax arbitrage in Japan, because you can sell gold with a 10% consumption tax, meaning that if you buy the gold in the US and bring the gold in Japan and then sell it at spot, meaning that you can sell 10% higher. That's the reason why a lot of people actually doing this actually tax arbitrage, but people actually not really declaring the tariff. That's usually you need to do to pay the tariff. But that's the reason why actually government office actually checking the gold.
Got it. So, you know, I want to take a little bit of a different direction here. You know, it's interesting. I mean, I remember when bitFlyer launched, people were very excited. You know, it's interesting to look back over time and see all the Bitcoin companies that have kind of come and gone. I mean, I have an old t-shirt from an old conference where literally there's 30 sponsors and 29 of them are out of business. bitFlyer has been able to grow into really one of the only truly global Bitcoin exchanges. Why have you been able to do that? What is it that you've learned that's made bitFlyer been able to weather the crazy volatility that, you know, just most Bitcoin entrepreneurs aren't able to figure out on their first attempt?
I think we are one of the first penguin after Bitstamp, Coinbase, Kraken, then bitFlyer. Launched actually 2014 January. I started the company in the year 2013. So one of the reasons was actually probably we started earlier and took the advantage of the first penguin. But we also actually very technical. We are kind of unique. As you said, we are the only exchange. We have actually 3 different licenses in Japan: virtual currencies license, in the US, money transmitters license, money service business, and the bit license in New York State. And we have the license in Europe as well. It's PIs, payment institutions. So we are the only exchange. We are very compliant, and we are trying to actually build the governance. So that's one of the reasons actually that a lot of people actually trusted the exchange. That's one reason. Yeah, and also actually I did make a SRO, self-regulated organization. So which is called like originally actually JADA, JADA, and then it's now JVCA. So was actually spending a lot of time to build some rules to protect the consumers. So maybe one of the reasons, but we are not really actually very successful in the US and Europe. So we have just started getting into the market. So to be very honest, so trying to expand, shifting from Japan to US and Europe more these days.
So talk about that for a second. Before we started talking, I was asking your team, you know, when you look at growth, is a retail investor that you're trying to get excited about Bitcoin the same as a retail investor in Japan? Do you market to them the same way? Do they look for the same things? Or how are they different?
Yeah, different actually. In 2016 to 17, or maybe January to March in 2018, there was a lot of actually buyers in Japan, and that drove a lot of volatility in the volumes. I think bitFlyer became #1 volume, including the leverage trading globally for maybe at least 18 months before the Binance and BitMEX actually came into the market. So we're #1, but that's actually driven by the Japanese retailers for sure.
And is that user different than the users that you see coming from Europe or the United States?
It's yes and no. Yes, mainly actually early adopters are, I mean, kind of same character. But in Japan, a lot of actually, Mrs. Watanabe.
I don't.
Mrs. Watanabe is a kind of meme, is a Japanese housewoman trying to actually do the so-called FX. It's fiat FX, so like Japanese yen versus US dollars, and then leverage up to, let's say, 10 times to 25 times. So the people who's actually prefer doing the more like high risk trading in the fiat is so-called like Mrs. Watanabe. Also, actually, there's a lot of actually users doing the FX actually came into the crypto market. So that pushes up a lot of prices in the, in Japanese market, usually trading higher than the rest of the world.
So, that's interesting. I'd like to kind of ask you about, is there a Bitcoin counterculture in Japan, or the people that make up the Bitcoin community in Japan? Is there something unique about them? Because in the United States, it's anarchists, it's libertarians, it's it's a wide range of people, but there's definitely a countercultural element to it. Does that also exist in Japan?
Yeah, I mean, they're actually very core Bitcoiners in Japan since probably 2013. Still, they're here just loving the Bitcoin. Well, there's actually some controversial discussion between the Bitcoin Cash and the Bitcoin Core. So there's actually very core Bitcoiners here in Japan as well. Also, some people actually believe that one of the reasons why actually we got together in Tokyo was the actually thesis of the blockchain is written by the Satoshi Nakamoto. That's actually also kind of, we can sympathize that's a Japanese name. So
yeah, there's still a window here for the Japanese government to come out and claim, officially that Bitcoin is a Japanese invention. They need to get out there ahead of the curve and put that out there. Well, so let's look to the future a little bit. You've seen Bitcoin change a lot. What is your, you're on a recording right now. All right, people are going to be able to reference this in 4 years when we're celebrating the next halving.
Yeah.
What's the message that you want to deliver to them, and what do you think on the record, we see over the next 4 years?
It's kind of difficult to actually mention about the price in my position, but
Sure.
just let's celebrate the. It's just a celebration. A lot of actually newcomers don't know the reason why we actually celebrating the halving. So maybe we can announce a little bit more. Just enjoying and eating pizza, and then last time actually 4 years ago. We in Tokyo, guys, foreigners and the locals actually got together at the one place. Maybe 50 to probably 100 people actually came to the party, and we actually checked the blockchain. That was actually 25 BTC to 12.5, right? And then the time we were watching the halving, the moment actually delayed a lot. Did you remember that? It delayed a lot. Usually it happens every 10 minutes, but it took probably actually 15 to 18 minutes. And then we are kind of afraid, oh, what happened? Actually, program fucked up. So, and then finally, actually, we are monitoring the blockchain explorer. which is also actually built by bitFlyer, called like a chain flyer. You should actually go to chain flyer. It's very visual, so easy to look how the blockchain look like. We all actually watching the chain flyer and the finally actually check the Coinbase size is a 12 and a half, and we celebrated and the cheers and whatever. It was very fun actually.
Yeah, well, that's so classic Bitcoin. You know, whenever you're expecting something from it, it does the opposite. You need it to find a block, it's going to wait a few hours. You need it to wait, it's going to find it right now.
Yeah.
Well, so, you know, I want to thank bitFlyer for supporting this Halving live stream. And, you know, I want to kind of highlight, I think, you know, in this next epoch, we're going to have a lot of new people joining Bitcoin. We're going to have a lot of new people being called to Bitcoin as kind of this global uncertainty over the next couple of years. And I think it's so important that we develop a Bitcoin culture and a Bitcoin community that can spread the philosophical underpinnings of what makes Bitcoin valuable, so that when new people enter the space, they don't have to have 10 years of experience in order to be able to understand, you know, what makes Bitcoin unique. And so it's so cool to be able to get a little taste of what the community looks like in Japan and what this global culture is that we're building. So I wanted to say thank you to bitFlyer for supporting this and for pushing the culture of Bitcoin globally.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Actually, I love to actually contribute to the market or the community. I used to be a one just Bitcoiner, but nowadays it's a little bit difficult to act as a just one Bitcoiner. So it's all day.
Yeah, sure. You know, the thing is that in their heart of hearts, every crypto person is a Bitcoiner. Yeah. You know, before we wrap up this interview, you know, what is one thing that everyone listening to this should be looking and watching from bitFlyer? What's something that you're most excited about that's coming from bitFlyer?
Well, we're actually improving a lot of actually services. We make the we're kind of unique. We have the how do you say like board trading. Like you can send an order into the we call it ITA, but it's a order board. Also, we have the very easy iOS app and Android apps to buy, which is called like marketplaces. Also, actually, probably listing more. Probably, I don't know. And we also actually doing the blockchain technology as well, which is called like Miyabi. Original blockchain we developed is a private blockchain, which is very kind of different from the Bitcoin's blockchain, but it's supposed to actually use for financial institutions and some large institutions. Also, we are hiring people, some engineers, and also we're kind of actually unique that very mixed culture of the American, European, and the Japanese culture. We have many foreign engineers. So very unique Japanese company, which is actually also doing the operation globally.
So for people that want to join the bitFlyer team and help take Bitcoin global, where do they go check that out?
Sorry, what do you mean?
For you guys are recruiting and hiring. Somebody's getting into Bitcoin. They want to come work with bitFlyer. Where should they check it out?
Yeah, check the website.
All right. Well, Yuzo, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for ringing in this new halving. And you heard it straight from the legend himself. When the halving is near, make sure you pull up Chain Flyer to watch the action go down.
Yeah, please take a look at the Chain Flyer, and thank you for inviting me. It was very nice to talk to you guys.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good night.